Dasher. I could tell you some bloody Dasher, I first met Dasher on the football field, and he was a rough bloody bloke to play football against, and you knew when you stepped over that line to play a game of football, you were going to play a game of football. There was no sweat about it. Once you stepped back over the line, there you go, mate, have a beer. Because he liked his beer, Dasher. But he was a very forward sort of a bloke. Had a bit of a bushy in him sort of thing, you know. He was outstanding in his own way because of his character, right? And obviously a brave man. And, you know, Donny Palmer, who was with him at the time, what's his name, and Don's passed on, he said Dasher was bloody crazy, mate, the things he used to do, you know. But when I say crazy because of the things he used to do, he did them tactically sound, right? Everything the blokes did, it was tactically sound. It wasn't just being stupid, right? And of course, being an outstanding Australian, he knew Swanee well, and he wasn't going to leave him. Now,
he was his mate.
Yeah, and Vic was dead. Yeah, and he was still carrying him. Right. So, yeah, and it was sad to lose a character like Dasher. He could have gone a long way as a business manager. He'd be bloody hard, but he'd be a good manager, you know. He'd have to soften his tone a little bit. No, yeah, well, he was Dasher. He was a character, you know.
I don't think there's anybody else who
Yeah.
would have did what he did.
Yeah.
From the outside, it doesn't make sense. It's heartbreaking what he did.
Yeah, but he didn't know. I'm sure he didn't know that Swanee was gone.
No.
You know,
You don't think
as far as he was concerned, he
wasn't giving up.
he was helping his mate, right? And I can see that, right? Once again, Swanee would become his responsibility, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Right? Do your job. And he wasn't going to leave him in a paddock. Well, nobody does. You know, we don't do that.
And the Aussies all had strange names, like Bucket Ass Ted Wade. He was so skinny, he had to have a beard to just keep his britches on his hip. He had no butt, and so he's a bucket ass. Tiny, you can figure that out. This guy came from a cattle farm in Perth out back. He must have weighed close to 300 pounds. He had to ride a draft horse or something. And then Curly, this guy not only had no hair, he had no eyelashes, no eyebrows. So they all had these weird names, but they were all good professional soldiers, and they all looked out for each other. When they call each other mate, they mean mate. I mean, it's a tight brotherhood. The only thing close to it in American terms would be the Brotherhood of the Marine Corps. I remember one time we were on an operation, we were going down a ridge line, and it was raining, and we got mortared. And so we took some cover. I wanted to keep moving. They couldn't move. They had some problems up front. And I'm trying to get the point to keep moving, and they claimed they couldn't move. And they were caught in a crossfire up there. And the mortars are dropping all over. And I'm thinking, they weren't dropping directly on us. They were maybe missing us by 100 meters or so. And I'm thinking, if they can see us, they're gonna hone in. And I look over at Dasher, and that's pouring rain. And he's laying behind a rock on the mud. It's this orange clay, lower Ordovician clay, just like we have here in Georgia. And he's playing with a night crawler. And he's pulling this thing out and letting it go, find its way back to the hole. And once it does, he grabs it and pulls it back away. And I'm sitting there counting the flash and the bangs and trying to figure out how close they're getting and whether or not we're going to get bracketed. And I look back at him, this crazy Aussie is playing with this worm. And I looked at him, and he smiles at me, and he says, Skipper, he says, you know what? He says, the Viet Cong think that they're messing with my mind trying to figure out if they're going to hit me. He says, I'm driving this worm crazy. And then it dawned on me. What he's saying is, you dumb lieutenant, there ain't nothing you can do except sit tight, stay covered, and wait till they run out of ammunition, because you ain't going to get these people to move. And he knew that the chances of a mortar round, finding us was one in a million. And there was nothing he could do about it anyway. So it's the little things that he taught me that enabled me to survive. I took care of what I could take care of, and I didn't worry about the rest of it. I didn't waste time, and I didn't waste effort about the rest of it. Dai Wei Han, at that time, he had been demoted to captain. We got him, after this operation, we got him promoted back to major. So anyways, I told Captain Haugen, I said, we're supposed to go down this ridge line when we head north to the river. And I said, the rocks slope the other direction. And I said, if we go another 1,000 meters, we'd be on the other side of this ridge line. And I said, there'll be game trails there and water. Because when I was at Notre Dame, I think I graduated. When I graduated Notre Dame, I think I was the first Methodist that could recite the Hail Mary in 4 languages. So I couldn't take religion courses, so I took geology. And one of the things you worried about in operation was running out of water. Basically, the troops carried their rice in a sock, and they could cook their own rice and live for a week. But the problem was water. When you got up in the mountains, there was no water except at the lower elevations, and to try to get down to a creek bed and get some water. So I said, if we go on this side of that ridge line instead of on the east side, if we go on the west side, the rock slope to the west, we'll be able to find some springs and we'll be able to get water. Because after you've been tripping on your tongue for a couple hours, you realize that was one of the things always on my mind, is not so much where's the next meal going to come from. You could usually get a helicopter to drop you some rice or something, but water, because they didn't carry, it was too hard for them to carry you water. So Haugen waits till in the morning. I'm getting ready to go with the lead company. Dasher's already with him. I'm back there with Haugen, and Haugen is telling Dai Wei Han about it, and Han said, because you don't advise, you suggest, but Dai Wei, if we go this way, he said, and then he answered in English. He says, you're preaching to the choir. Let's go. And I'm thinking, that guy had to spend some time in the United States. He knows idioms, So we're going down this game trail, heading toward the Gallantry River in the village. That was our objective. And all of a sudden, the point guy stops. And there it is. It's a way station. And the place is crawling with Viet Cong. And thank goodness we had the right company commander with us. He silently deployed his guys, and off we went. And we overran them. We knocked out 3 machine gun positions that they hadn't, that were empty. They had the same lax security as the Vietnamese, South Vietnamese. And anyways, we swept through the area, and I told the company commander, I said, get some people up here and make sure there's no counterattack. And he was hesitating, and they were looking for tunnels. And I saw somebody up there, Dash did, and Dash and I went up. And thank goodness a few of them followed, because then everything broke loose. And we had grenades lobbed at us, and we just kept going until we knocked them off and got them turning tail. And then I called an airstrike in because I knew where they were retreating to. So anyway, that was the first Bronze Star. That was Operation Lam Son, which means Operation 90. And it was very successful. And we got old Dai Wee Han promoted to Tiota, Major Han. But Dash taught me a lot about just, learning the language, learning how to fight that kind of a war in that kind of a terrain. I remember one time we get to a stream, and it wasn't really high up on a mountain, and I filled my canteens and put in the purification tablets, kind of a chlorination thing. So I put those in, and I got my canteens on. Then I watched Dasher. The Australians always had better equipment than we did. He fills his canteens and he puts in these tablets, and they're like chlorination tablets. Then when they're dissolved, he puts in another tablet. And that kills that ugly taste. The Australians had better equipment all the way around, because they knew how to fight these kind of wars. Then he puts his canteens back in. Then he takes his helmet off, puts it in the stream, and drinks the raw water. And I'm thinking, you stupid Aussie. I said, Dash, what are you doing? Just to show him how stupid I am, I said, Dash, what are you doing? Drinking that water when you've got... He says, I don't get sick. He said, this water is for you in case you need it. In other words, if I ran out of water or I got hurt, that was for me. So that's why I named my son after him, So just being around him, he had two things I could do better than he could. I could see further, and I could see at night, and I could hear better. And but when it came to experience and how you fight that kind of a war, and where you should be and how you should position yourself, just being around him, I learned to do things the right way. So, well, Dash was on an operation, typical search and destroy operation down there. They ran into a large group of Viet Cong. They were outmanned, outgunned, and the other Aussie, Butch Swanton, got hit with machine gun fire. Dash told the rest of them he could see they were outnumbered. He said, I'll stay here with Butch and hold them off. You guys retreat. And he stayed with Butch. He tried to get Butch evacuated. He tried to get a helicopter in. I think his last words were, you know, my God, somebody help us. But he stayed there. Apparently he took a bunch of Viet Cong with him because he used up his grenades, and they finally overran him. He was shot several times, maybe 100 times. I was asked to go down and identify the body. So because I knew him, and they needed it verified, and they figured if anybody could, I could. Of course, the guy was tattooed head to foot, but I went down and identified the body, and I went to the memorial service, which I didn't remember doing at first until I looked at the letters to Sandy, and yeah, I did. And the Aussies don't automatically bring their people home. So I took up a collection, and I got a helicopter allotted to me. I went all over I-Corps, all the advisors, and by then I was pretty well known. And I collected enough money to send Dash's body, Butch's body home, and start a pretty nice trust fund for their kids. So yeah, the second week in November, you know, the 10th of November is the Marine Corps birthday, and the 11th, of course, is Veterans Day, but I don't really celebrate a lot because the 13th is, you know, that day. But the guy lived hard, he fought hard, and he was more than just a good soldier. He was good people, like the Bible says. Anybody that lays down your life for a friend